Three, two, one.
I'm watching history decline as a discipline in higher education. I'm watching a de-emphasis of teaching citizens in a democracy the importance of understanding the past. And if you have a nation, history is its memory. Now, my friends in the academy, they say, well, history should not be a servant of nationalism. Yes, but you watch out what happens when history has done a disservice to nationalism. When people don't know their history. You watch what happens then. You may have a vision for the world, but locally, you're going to find people not understanding what happened right around them. They don't even have an understanding of their common struggles, their common problems, and the problems that they have solved in the past. And what we are witnessing then with the contraction of history is in fact the contraction of knowledge and a contraction of citizenship. That is what we're actually witnessing when we see this taking place everywhere. And so to bring it full, how then do you deal with this problem? And my suggestion to you is the model for dealing with this problem is the model created by a guy over 100 years ago who looked out and saw a much different world. When he wanted to spread history, he could not depend on the universities for the few. He had to create structures for the many. And this was the kind of great achievement of Carter G. Woodson.
So I want us to think about what is African American Studies, and I want to think about it in two ways, right? African American Studies is who we study, right? And we often think about that very quickly, right? It has African American in the title, right? We're looking for African Americans or African derived people to show up somewhere on the curriculum, on the syllabus, in the textbook, right? Flipping through the U.S. history textbook, we're saying, who are we? Who do we study, right? That is a part of it. That's the content part, right? You need to get that. We've got to do the good historical work about local figures, about national figures, about transnational global figures, right? But the second thing that I want us to think about is not only who we study, but it's how we study, right? It is a method of engaging this. And this is where I'm gonna kind of help us think about these kind of ideas. So today I want us to think about, if we're gonna do African American studies, we've got to move from history as an episode or as a mechanism that provides a certainty or absolute truth to a project that opens up questions of suspicion and uncertainty and variety, right? We've got to help our students understand that is the goal of, history, right? We want to move from certainty to suspicion, right? We want to move away from triumphalism, right? Which is a doctrine that basically says when we're telling history, we're telling it from the perspective of the elite, right? We're telling it from the perspective of those who won, right? In many ways, when we start with 1619 or we start with 1492, right? We're dealing with the doctrine of triumphalism, right? American exceptionalism. You guys have all heard these terms, right? Like, we were the winners, we triumphed, so we're going to start the history with that makes most sense for us, right? And so we're moving from that to a model of dismantling hegemony, right? Whose story are we going to tell, right? Who are we going to talk about, the winners or the losers or both, and their interaction, right? I'm going to give you examples of this, right? Like moving from telling American history from Monticello and Thomas Jefferson to telling it from the perspective of Sally Hemings and his slave concubine, really, right? How does that dismantle this triumphalist narrative, right? About Thomas Jefferson as one of the founders and fathers of our country, right? And then we want to go from a singular or absolute logic to, again, when I'm talking about like multiple narratives, right? How do we open up and crack open these disputed and contested facts, right? I mean, so when we're doing this, again, like I said, all of this, right, which I could say is about African American history, is really about how we do all history, right? Really how we do all intellectual and scholarly approaches, right? When we walk into a classroom, we're saying, right, we have certain things that we achieve consensus on, right? Right? We wrote the Declaration of Independence in this year or something like, But then we have other things that we then need to back out from and figure out how it's working and what ways does it dispel or push back against how we are existing and playing in the world, right?